I'd like to welcome you all to the September school board meeting for RSU 25. Please join with me. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you be kind enough to take the attendance?
The attendance, we are full house. Everybody is present this evening.
This is our time for public participation. You see, we've got some people here. If anyone would like to do the public comment, this is the time. If you're not here and you'd like to do public comment, you can reach us through public comment at rsu25.org, or you can phone in for public comment at 307-8099. Do we have anyone here who would like to make public comment? No?
My name is Keith Nealand. I'm a resident of Bucksport. I just had a question about the public participation policy. What was the rationale behind putting strict limits on it when there were already considerations in here limiting the amount of, leaving it up to the discretion of the board to limit the amount of time? I just wonder why that was necessary.
Jim, would you like to?
I can. That policy, not ours particularly, but on a whole, the state of Maine has come under review. And under the advice of council was to have a reasonable amount of time established. So it's just, there's a post right there, reasonable amount of time. Then that way the board chair can have a opportunity if you'd like to extend it, or she extend it, that's fine. But it gives a reasonable amount of time. And so somebody can't say, well, I wasn't done my comments. If you ask them, you've already talked for 5 minutes, can you please do that? So that's the rationale. It's not to squelch anything. That's more than reasonable in terms of the vast majority of public comments we've had are much less than.
3 minutes. That's just 3 minutes seemed like a little low. And I didn't like the idea of having a hard cap in there because I think public comment should be encouraged much more. There needs to be more public comment. So I wasn't too thrilled with the amount of strictly limiting it. Although currently, the board has been very generous in allowing as much public comment as there has been.
Right.
Like I've never been stymied or anything, but if things should arise in the future, I don't know. I don't like the strict limit because it could be abused by the board down the road to limit public comment that needs to be there. I think any comment that's wants to get out there should get out there regardless of time. I mean, over the last year, there hasn't been a lot of, reason to do that, but if it's there, it should be out there. The board needs to hear as much as the public wants to portray to it and not be limited.
I
That's,
think the board absolutely agrees with you on that. I think that we also needed to kind of lay in some protections to allow everybody to have their voice in the case where we have 20 speakers.
yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but sometimes.
I know. I guess just on principle, I don't agree that was necessary or the right move, but I at least understand why it was put in place, and that was part of my comment. So thank you very
And
much.
Just for background, that was part of the descriptors behind that policy. You just got moved to the forefront, so it's in the policy.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Move on to adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, I do have a couple. Unfortunately, we have to table L5 again. Miss Ellis had an unfortunate spill this weekend while hiking, and she banged herself up quite badly, so she's been unable to work this week. She will come back. She was disappointed she couldn't do that, but we'll take care of it on a later date. If we could add item L9, election of delegate to the MSBA Annual Delegate Assembly. This one's usually a hot tip topic, and people are really excited about volunteering to do that. Right, Scott?
Right.
Yeah. Also, unfortunately, if we can add item to L1A, Wayne Michaud has submitted his resignation effective December 31st of this year.
Next, we have approval of minutes. Take a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of August 16, 2022 as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have communications and correspondence.
A number of communications this month. There's a letter to Kathy Pelletier, Adult Education and Conditional Contract Award. Congratulations once again, Kathy, for your work on that. You've done a lot of work, I know. And I think that's fantastic. Also in there, you have the preliminary agenda for the MSMA Fall Conference, which is October 27th and 28th. Board members, you are encouraged to attend, but would ask you to communicate with myself or Sue Bennett to let me know if you are going to attend. If you are going to attend and would like to stay over, we also need to know that ASAP because those rooms book up very, very quickly. This is going to be a very full conference. It's rewarding every time we've gone to this. We're able to come away with new learnings, which is really important. Plus, it gives you the opportunity to network with other board members from across the state of Maine.
It's the 26th and 27th.
That is correct, 27th and
27th and 28th. I did ask for the days off. I have to follow up with my. So
I'm thinking
might
I'd
be
also like
interested.
to go.
You definitely like to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So go from there. So let us know so we can get that taken care of. In there, in the communication, you have the update from MSBA, quite a bit of information around the conference in there as well. Some more information, the proposed resolutions. I do have the resolutions that just came out this afternoon. I will send those to you electronically so you got them. Communication in here around Maine Career Exploration Badging work through JMG. We actually have the opportunities for juniors and seniors to receive up to $500 for qualified exploration experiences. They do have to go through a process. They have to have it documented, but there's money available for them to do that. So it's quite a program. We are following through on that, making that available to our students as well. So it's a 40-hour meaningful paid work experience, which is pretty exciting for them. Also, we have communication from the Maine State Police. It's a good one. We passed our audit. We do background checks for volunteers, and we have to follow their protocols. We have to go through an audit. We completed that. It was reviewed, and we were successful, so that's fantastic. And then just today, I put in the MSBA 2022 nominating committee of the slate of officers for different regions. We are region 4, I believe. There are also 2 at-large positions available. That will be voted upon at the delegate assembly. That's what I have for communications.
Questions regarding the communications? Move into Jim's report.
Well, it's typical in September. I always show the opening enrollments, and our enrollments were as high as 1105. We went down to 190, 1096, and now we're back to 1097. It's actually gone up to 1098 today. So there's always some ins and outs, but that's a good, healthy number. You can see where we were last year and the year before that on the same dates. So you can see there was a dip the fall of 2020. You can see the impact of COVID. So, but you can see where the numbers have come back up again. Okay. Other key things I'd like to point out, a lot of these are advisory, are going to be on the agenda. So I won't go into it too much, some of the other reports. And on the very back page, I gave you some longitudinal data, just putting this information together. I just thought it's very interesting, so the board can have that. And if the community members have any questions, but it gives you data of enrollment, number of students general ed, number of students special ed, out of district placements, tuition in, tuition out, total enrolled at HCTC. All this information is right there. It's kind of a one-stop shopping, but it's good, interesting information. And I wrote down some of the enrollments by town, so you get a sense of that. I have, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Jim? Board chairs report. School has just begun. I've been hearing lots and lots of positive comments, but of course, that has to be tempered a little bit because I get most of my information during soccer games. And both the boys and the girls have been on a massive winning streak, so that puts everybody in a real positive mood. But you know, I have been hearing lots of very favorable comments. I think they start to school and the schools have gone off well, from everything that I've heard. And so I just wanted to be able to bring that back to you, that people are happy at the moment. I also did have a bit of bad news that I do want to bring to your attention. The former board member Jennifer Tyne passed away this weekend. And so just wanted to let you know that if you had worked with her. Are there any questions for me on my very extensive board report? No. Then we can move into curriculum committee report.
So I'll make this really quick because we canceled the meeting this month and we will have a meeting next month.
Finance committee met right before this meeting. And we're just starting out. So there's not a ton to report to you, but the big item is the HCTC. Some budgetary errors on Goldsmith's side. Give it to us. So our tuition is only budgeted about half of what it's going to be. So we will need to work some financial wonders to manage that over the course of the year. That was the excitement in finance. Policy.
Policy committee, we did meet, bringing forth 2 policies for first reading, and we did an annual review on 2 other policies. Those are agenda items for later on this evening.
So
Yeah, we met last week and Wayne updated us on the middle school fields. They're coming along nicely, and just about finished up. We also talked about the lead testing that he's been doing all summer, trying to get ahead of the lack of testing from the state, trying to get everything taken care of and then problems found and remedied.
and HCTC.
We did meet, as of September 8th, their enrollment was 280. Now that could change here and there, but that's a pretty healthy enrollment for down there. We do have 49 students from Bucksport going to HCTC. So that's fantastic for those kids that they're finding something there. HCTC received 3 different grants. And they approved their live work policy, which actually we'll see today because we got to approve one today because of the welding program, satellite welding program being held here. That's about it. Other than the opening was a little iffy for them because of different start dates from different schools, but you know, that happens.
Thank you. We have no old business. Under new business, we have personnel.
Yes, personnel, we have resignations from Wayne Michaud, Director of Facilities and Maintenance, and Wayne's letter. It's not in your packet. I was in enough to just gave it to me today. So he's upset about that. He's very much committed. He's done wonderful work for us. He will work with us right through December 31st, help with the transition. But family situations dictate.
So it didn't have anything to do with the maple trees.
Didn't have anything to do with maple trees and tapping.
Okay.
It's okay. It's all set. Also Scott Rose, custodian, Jamie Urquhart, MLS at Tech, and Donna Short is going to give up her role as student council for BMS. She's still will remain teaching for us.
Well, I move that we accept the resignations with regret.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to accept the resignations with regret. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We have nominations.
Nominations, I have nominations. I have for support personnel, Christopher Carter for special ed tech. Coaches, Alita Schmidt for the JV volleyball coach. And it's wonderful that we have enough kiddos that we have a JV team, so it's exciting. She's a former varsity coach for volleyball at another school, so she brings a great deal of talent to us. Kai Brown is an alumni volunteering in the soccer program with boys. Gabe Leclerc, the same. VHS soccer, both for those two gentlemen. Seth LaPlante is the director of the REACH program, volunteering with BMS soccer. He did coach it last year. And Sarah Jackson, who's been a longtime middle school cheering coach, volunteering to help with the high school cheerleaders.
I and David just graduated last year.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I move that we accept the nominations as a block.
Second?
All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have the recognition, Allison Brandt.
I'm just so happy to bring this to you. Going to ask Mr. Morrow to do the introduction. Would you like Allison to stand right up?
I would. I'd like to have Ms. Braley come up and join us because I know that's why she strives so hard to do what she does. I just like to point out I did not go hiking this weekend, so I'm in attendance. And I'd like to put on the record that you can always count on me not to go hiking. So we've asked Ms. Braley to join us today. Those of you that are not familiar with her, educational roots in her family go very, very deep, as we see her father standing over to the side and taking a picture, because that also helps her not turn red as much. So Allison started here as an ed tech with us, and we loved her. As she worked her way into the middle school, she said, hey, as an ed tech, could I do some of this? And we said, sure. And it turned into our now position of computer science teacher and information technology integrator in the schools, which is huge for us. Allison has certainly been a driving force, if not arguably the driving force in computer science development here at RSU 25. So we tell you that pretty regularly. We make sure we point out that Allison's a wonder for us and very, very helpful to me because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like to take credit for other people's work. So Allison has definitely carved the way there. But it's not just us saying it. Allison has received a New England award to the Computer Science Teachers Association. Out of all the teachers in New England that were nominated, all the members of that organization, Allison took the Teaching Excellence Award and brought it back to RSU 25. She will be formally recognized on November 12th at the CSTA Western Mass, which I'll make sure I'm there to help her control her red the best I can. But in all seriousness, Allison, thank you so much for what you do every day. And as you always tell us, okay, I can do that. Okay, I can do that. So it's not just computer science. It's not just the outing club. It's not just CSTA. It's not just officer CSTA. It's your attitude and your response to students. You've got students that are here third year at the high school that you don't let go of because they have tech on the brain like you do, and you help them still today, even though it's not your job, right? So thank you very much. Round of applause, please. The floor is yours.
Thanks. It really is nice to be honored. I got nominated by two of my coworkers, which is really what meant the most to me about it. It's really nice to be recognized. I really do love my job. Great, thanks. No problem. But I really, really do love my job. It makes me really happy. It's a really big passion of mine. So to get recognition for it, while my anxiety makes it very awkward, it really is quite nice. So thank you very much. I'm very appreciative.
You can go.
The photographer good enough pictures. Yeah. One of the things I just want to point out, Allison is an example of helping people grow from within. And I think that's critically important in our district. I think it's a hallmark of our district. And at this time with employment the way it is, it's crucial that we help our folks develop from within. So she's a great example of that. We're very fortunate to have her on our team. Even though it took me a while.
You were very patient. And for 2 batches of it.
But just, you know what, that's how we developed a relationship and very.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we have overview and conversation with Dave Harlan in regard to RSC 25 collaboration with Bucksport Regional Health Center for student counseling. So
He's finishing up some work at the health center right now, and so if we can kind of
Move
take
that.
this, move it
Table.
on, and, yep. And so we can be able to finish up, but we've gone quickly, so. All right,
push that back.
pick it up when we can, right?
Consideration of employee request for leave.
Yes, in your packet, we have an individual who made a request for leave. Yep. That is from Abigail Sear. They have a family trip. They have some older grandparents. And there's some medical issues with those grandparents, and they have requested to do a large family trip. And obviously, the timing of that was not entirely within her hands. It was determined by the grandparents, so she's requesting leave of absence and being able to miss that time from work. Yeah, we will cover, take care of that. For her, so.
Do you have any questions for Jim regarding this? Leave?
I move that we approve the request for leave.
Second?
All those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Very, very much.
And then we tabled Director of Curriculum annual data update. So it's all heard. I can, don't do it.
It's a contact sport. Especially when you fall on slippery ground. It's very much a contact sport.
That brings us in first reading of policies.
Yep, you have 2 policies that were reviewed by the policy committee and brought forth to you for first reading. BEDH, public participation at board meetings, and ABC, tobacco-free schools. I explained both in my report, but for the benefit of the public, public participation at board meetings. Around the state, there's been some different interpretations of what public means. And public is truly just that, it's public. People who are residents of the state of Maine. They don't need to be residents of the RSU or the school district municipality. Okay. And so I just wanted to make sure we were all clear on that. Our policy wasn't limiting, which was good, but we did clarify the language, so it's the most current according to the interpretation from the lawyers, as it should be. We just discussed the fact that we've always had a 3-minute guideline as part of our practices, but we moved that from a back page onto the front page. Actually, the policies recommending 3 minutes. Again, this allows more people to have an opportunity to speak. It doesn't take away a person's opportunity to speak. But it does prevent a filibuster. Even though the board chair has always had the right to restrain if need be, this provides the board chair more structure into that, and that was recommended. So that's what we discussed in policy committee, and that's what we brought forward. For policy ABC, tobacco-free schools, this was more of an extensive rewrite, and we've used the updated MSMA sample policy to go by. A couple of significant changes in here is in our prior policy that possession of tobacco or tobacco products, our administration could turn those over to law enforcement. Maine law has changed where no longer is it a crime to possess tobacco, even if you're below 21 years of age. So there's no sense having that in our policy, so that was struck. And other than that, everything was just in alignment with the most up-to-date sample policy from MSMA and clarifying a lot of definitions that weren't previously clarified.
Any questions on either of these policies? Look for them.
Well, I move that we accept the first reading of policies B, E, D, H, and A, D, C.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We have annual review of policies.
Yep. Where we have a satellite program of HCTC, we are required to have policies IHAI, live outside work, and IHAI-E, live outside work request form. Live outside work, for definition for folks, is not the fact that we're going to take kids outside and let them work. Okay, what it is about, it's if the superintendent of schools rates his trailer for the third time coming back from Moosehead, that it can be towed here, dropped off, and the kids in the welding program are able to repair it for the superintendent, just as an example. Purely just making that up.
Our fee.
For a fee, right,
You're going to charge these?
no, I'm not gonna charge these kids. I pay for, I pay for the materials, the kids do the work, but there's no warranty implied or explicit for that work. So basically so folks do welding here, it could be automotive, it could be any one of the different programs. So just so people are aware clearly, if you're gonna have kids do some outside work, which is a great project, in the case of the trailer, the snowmobile trailer, it was 2 kiddos in their second year, and there was their opportunity to learn how to weld aluminum and everything. Before that had been steel. And so they got to take that and do aluminum. So it was really a live work project, which is good for them and able to help them move forward with certification. So both of those policies have to do with work that's brought in from the outside. It's not a requirement. If they have the time, if they have the skills, then we can do it. If not, then we have to say no. That's just the reality of it. But we're not going to incur any cost from it. The materials have to be purchased by the person requesting the work. Go from there. They're not allowed to pay the kids. That's just the way it is. That's a requirement by law. And all this is just an annual review, and then you can make a motion that the policies were reviewed and are consistent with HCTC.
Well, I move that the policies for food along with CTC.
second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous. Thank you.
We don't pay them, they do big donuts. Just
Most any food that you bring in, just keep your hands away. I will say, they have rebuilt my trailer twice, and they've done a great job.
Was it not done well the first time?
No,
or
one
was
was a
it-
snowmobile trailer, the other one was a
Oh.
boat trailer.
Okay.
Both repairs have survived, and I've tested them significantly.
yes.
Held up very well. So,
Fumbles and all.
drive to Lost Road, the Golden Road, a little bit, you'll see.
Yeah.
Route 15 up to Greenville.
Next, we have principal and administrator reports. Josh, you want to go ahead?
So good evening, everybody. You have our report. Probably the first and last time we'll be on time all year, so I apologize in advance for all the other ones that will come in on Sunday night as opposed to Friday. So just real quickly, kind of want to update on the Rev grant, and this is just more of a numbers game, because I think when I talked to you last about the Rev grant, I was excited that we had hired somebody, but I didn't have any students yet. I am up to 5 students now in our online remote pathway program. And we have 2 more students on hold. It's actually kind of worked out pretty well, because every year we have students that end up making their way out of either residential facilities or mental health facilities, and they're not ready for a quick transition back into the school. So we're using this remote pathway as a way that we can actually help with that transition. And to the point where eventually they'll actually be in the building, still doing some of the remote classes, because they're having a hard time navigating back into the regular classroom. And then eventually we'll merge them into our regular mainstream instruction. So we've actually found some different creative ways that we can use this to help benefit a larger number of students. The other thing that, Audrey has 5 students that she works with on a daily basis. She comes in every Friday and she actually works out of that room back there. And I get to just kind of pop in. When I first started doing this, I'm thinking, well, these kids are gonna log on and she's gonna have those office hours and she's gonna have to be picking the kids to, right, remember I told you to log in at 9 o'clock and you'll go through your daily work. They don't leave her Zoom session. So she's in here and she gets up and they've all kind of just decided that they want to stay on, have her there. They're working on their classes. So it's like her having a classroom in front of her all day, just because they want to have someone holding them accountable. So it really seems, and they've actually, on Friday, she does activities with them, so they feel like they're in actual class and they can try to build connections even though they're not together in the same room. So again, I expect this to grow a little bit more. You know, again, the number that, I don't want to say a max number, but we know that that kind of prime numbers in the 9 to 12 range, somewhere in there, we think is the right percentage of students. But I'm very happy of where we have come so far in this first month. Other than that, I kind of talked about the school year and, you know, Tom, you kind of mentioned that, you know, everything seems to be going great and it really has been a great start. I think in our PLC meetings, I'm sorry, before we started school, we had meetings about what do we want to make sure kids are going to do when they come back? Like, what are those expectations that prior to COVID were just kind of ingrained in them? And so we had 40-minute assemblies with each class individually. And I think that was just such a huge thing for us to start out because the kids have just been fantastic. I really expected this big battle because we put this big focus on cell phones and them not being disruptions in the classroom, and just, you know, the behaviors being what we want to see out of our classroom. And so I go into our PLC and we're going to review the expectations, and I'm just waiting from teachers just to tell me like, so much of these expectations are still going missing. They're like, we can't believe how well it's gone. Like how well the students have really appreciated being back, having the normalcy, and have really stepped up their game. Do we still have some knucklehead decisions being made? Absolutely. But we had knucklehead decisions being made 20 years ago, will happen 20 years from now. But when I look at the things that we're dealing with right now, these are normal day-to-day school things that we deal with. So it's been a really good start. Not saying that there's still not going to be adjustments and things that we have to make along the way, but you know, all in all, it's been really good to have our first assembly last week. Just getting ready for homecoming this week. You know, to see 357 students in the gymnasium and the bleachers, it's a good sight to have. So, and on that, I lost my goals. So I'll take any questions that you may have.
Any questions for John? Thank you very much. Next, we've got Andrew.
It's nice to see everybody. Pretty much, we have been doing the start of school year type of activities, planning, checking IEPs, getting together. We have NWAs coming up. We're getting into the kids. We don't enter them, but we will be putting in the accommodations. We've had them check IEPs to make sure that they'll receive the accommodations they need. We went over typical protocols. We had our full staff meetings and pretty much the typical things that we went out. We've already started thinking about the alternative assessment, which is way in March, but we have to go through certain protocols and so that everything lines up. But it's been a really great beginning of the school year. Kids seem to be really happy. Teachers are. We're still looking for a couple, to fill a couple positions, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Darcy?
So I think I have the best job in the world as an elementary principal. So it's been a huge reward to step into the building and see all the kids back with their smiles. And one of the highlights of my day, when it gets a little overwhelming, I just go visit pre-K or kindergarten. And I met your daughter, she's adorable.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, they're all smiles, they're all excited to be back. Our staff have been really busy getting ready for the beginning of the school year. Our intervention staff has been working hard to collect data and administer some assessments, and now they're ready to offer some services in literacy and math. So I've been working closely with them. I've been working with Christina on an after-school program. So we'd like to get an SEL after-school program like we had last year. And then this year, we'd like to bring back the academic after-school intervention program. So that's a work in progress right now. We have something new that I'm really excited about. And again, this is still a work in progress, but we managed to work our schedule. So we do have some staff available at the tail end of the day where we would like to offer some enrichment opportunities for students that could look like possibly adaptive enrichment, RTI enrichment, students who might need an extra boost or some advanced work. So I'll keep you posted on that in October. We're still working on that. Let's see. We have some professional development opportunities coming up for Lucy Hawkins and some math trainings throughout the year. So I've been working with Christina on that as well. We have a lot of field trips coming up. The Apple Orchard is a very popular destination in September. So we have several wings in kindergarten who will be visiting the Apple Orchard. We had a really big open house night. It was very successful. A constant flow of community coming in and out of the building. It was just nice to have that back again and to meet the parents. I don't think I've met very many parents over the last couple of years, so that was nice. And we had 2 volunteer trainings in August, and that was a huge turnout. And then I offered one more because I had more parents asking. I had a volunteer training yesterday. I had a morning session and an afternoon session, and we had about 30 families who showed up for that. So parents are really excited to get into the building and help out. And a lot of them were like, well, we didn't know we could do more than just field trips. So I think we're going to have a lot of support from the community too. Right now, our enrollment pre-K through 4 is about 438. It could be 440 because we just gained a couple new students over the last week. That's it.
Any questions for guys?
Just an announcement for everybody, November 8th, Election Day.
Oh, yeah.
Just a reminder of that because the town of Bucksport uses the Jewett School as the polling place. We do not hold classes for kindergarten pre-K. The staff will still be there working. I know Darcy is discussing with the staff possibly doing some parent-teacher conferences then, but we don't want the students there when the building's wide open. So just, it's on the calendar, but we just want to remind you.
Yeah. And we'll include it in the newsletter and on our social media posts. We're pretty excited about the opportunities. I think I probably drove Jim nuts that day because money just seemed to come in. We have an opportunity for micro-credentialing this program as well, and I was texting him probably about 10 times. But we originally got involved with this at the request of local employers and our Workforce Development Board. There was a huge shortage of MAs in the area, and they could not fill them, and the colleges were looking at a 2-year program. We discovered that adult education could get them out there certified in 6 months with a certificate program. And they originally decided if they wanted more, they would send them off to college to get the higher AMA accreditation. Most of the employers, we've been in this now probably 6-7 years, have decided that the certificate program is more than enough. They are jumping straight to nursing college if they're advancing up. Very few needed to go back. Not to say that the college 2-year program is
not warranted. It just is a higher level. And there's a place for both, but we've been very successful. I'm starting to see a lot of my students now coming back and being the employers that I'm working with. But we got a very large grant to continue this. It will provide huge opportunities for us to give free courses in clinical medical assistant, CNA, medical administrative assistant, and we will be looking at college prep courses for students in our communities now, all free of charge. And there's money in there to help students who maybe run out of gas, that can't afford their shoes for the uniform. It's kind of a contingency fund. So when they've exhausted everything else and they do have to go out and try to go through EMDC and the whole program. But if they come back and there really is no other way to get their uniforms or their immunization shots, this grant will include money that can help someone who would otherwise be able to finish the program. And I'm thinking a student last year that we had, she did everything. She was a straight A student, fantastic. Did not have the gas money to get to the certification exam. And we were able to find her some assistance, but this will help with that. And we've got some really great people out there. It will also provide tutoring. The math and the digital literacy in the field right now is increasing as much as it is in any other field. And they just aren't prepared for that if they're an older adult. 30, I think old, 30. I hate to say that, but I guess 29 is the cutoff now for you. I don't know where that puts me. We won't even know that. But that's what I'm being told. So, you know, if you've been out there a little bit, there's been a lot of increases and things that have happened. So we're able to give those supports that you're already expected to know when you get to a college program. So we're really, really excited. CNA portion will be a pilot, probably starting in January. It is being run out of Ellsworth because they're going to be utilizing HCTC, but it is open to all of our communities free of charge. We're going to be running the hybrid CCMA program and opening that up to the county as well. We had over 100 applications last course that we ran, and we had to tell 70 people that we didn't have space. So we're pretty excited about this. It will allow opportunities for 2 years. And then it's been busy. I also uploaded our whole guide because I couldn't figure out how to get the family group logos off there. My logos I got in a separate email, but it gives you a chance to look at the family and see how we're marketing, because a lot of our monies now with the hub are coming together for grants. Our catalog I uploaded about 2 minutes before I came here, but that is out there. We will continue to add opportunities as we connect with teachers and get them a little comfortable being back with the enrichment program. The driver's ed program starts, I believe we're having a class October 4th. The September was a little early for school coming in, but they had such a response for the October class. That is definitely a go. We're going to be offering classes out of the new ceramics lab. We're really excited about that. Molly's working with us on that. Oh, and our year-long, we're working with Gear Parent Network to provide free workshops for parents. There's going to be 2 a month for the entire year, ending with summer safety in June. And Ms. Ellis is going to be helping us get all that information out to parents. We tried to pick a variety of age range, from littles all the way up to adults and grandparents raising grandkids. And the workshops are all free, and we've also done a 10 to 12, a 3 to 5, and a 6 to 8, trying to accommodate parents, whatever great age group they're at. Other than that, we've been involved with HiSET is transferring to a new owner, so we're getting a whole new computer framework and method of doing that. We've been training all week. And any questions? Okay, and Jim has to tie me down because of all the exciting things going on, and I've had to tie Tina down because of all the things going on. It's been fun our way.
A lot of great work, Kathy. Thank you so much. How bad it nailed down a grant that's just under $500,000. It's all workforce development, so it seems like
Great staff behind me. Could not do it without them.
All right, good evening, everyone. You've got a copy of my report. Just to echo what Josh and Darcy have already talked about tonight. You know, it's been a very positive start to the school year. Right from open house, like Darcy said, that first night where, you know, there were excited kids running through the school. There was one child who did not want to leave open house. They were crying and trying to convince their parents that they wanted to stay at open house, which, you know, is a great thing to see as far as the sentiment there. But you know, to have kind of that sense of normalcy back is really, you know, there's a positive feeling amongst all the students, all the staff. As I mentioned in my report, you know, we had a plan to start the school year to kind of reset expectations in classroom learning environments. And so I gave you an update on that. You know, we've worked very hard on making sure that we have some common expectations and also how we communicate those to students. We've thought about a variety of different ways. Folks who have worked with early adolescents know that you can tell them something once, twice, 10 times. It doesn't necessarily mean that they get it, right? So we've thought about how can we help sort of make those expectations real to that age range so they understand what we're looking for and it's something that's internalized. And that's been really successful. Capitalizing on that safety, respect, responsibility theme that many of them are already familiar with has been very useful as well. And then as I mentioned in my report, you know, it's one thing to sort of set the expectations. It's another thing to maintain them. And so we've been putting a lot of work in with teachers during PLC time. We've used some of our tier 3 funds that we get from the state to offer after school classroom management support sessions where we kind of break down different pieces. So we've had, you know, a teacher who's really proficient at establishing routines, talk to the rest of the staff about how they go about setting up those routines and, you know, why this routine, why don't I have that routine, that sort of stuff. We've had Michelle Taylor, who's the BCBA, come in and talk to our staff about reinforcement. Because a lot of times, anyway, you know, it's human nature, but sometimes when you think you're positively reinforcing something, sometimes you're positively reinforcing the negative behavior that caused you to positively reinforce the positive behavior in the first place, if that makes sense, right? Like the timing's got to be the right way, or else that you're actually encouraging them to keep doing bad things because then they get, you know, rewards 5 minutes later when they're doing the right thing. We're going to talk tomorrow about strategies to intervene when students maybe aren't meeting those expectations. And teachers, like I said, they're all working on written classroom management plans. What's really been impressive to me is the extent to which I feel teachers are going above and beyond to really, like, each grade level team is trying to come up with a classroom management plan that takes into account the variety of classrooms, right? So your phys ed class and your math class probably needs some slightly different expectations, or at least the operationalization of those expectations. And they're really working hard to make sure that it's consistent and that they're having conversations about, you know, how do we make sure that students from every spot that they go in their day have similar expectations that are clearly communicated and that we're going to respond in similar ways as well. So I've been really impressed at how the staff has worked together on that. And there's also a lot of positive buzz among students and staff with the golden tickets and the school store. So our school store is open for the first time this Thursday, I think, with Ms. Rockcliffe. She's very excited about it.
There's a pretty big competition in my house, just to
Yeah,
run
to
my 2
see,
kids.
yeah, who has the most
Who can
golden
collect the
tickets.
most golden tickets.
Yeah, we're starting to think about, you know, some cool experiences. It's not just, you know, they're teenagers. They're not, at some point, getting pencil toppers is gonna.
Oh, I don't know, my kids like
It'll-
stuff.
It's fun, right, for 3 or 4 times, but at some point, they're looking for more than that. And what they're really looking for is they're looking for cool, you know, like at the elementary schools, to sit in Miss Ellis's chair, Miss Dakin's chair. think that, again, it gets old as they get older, but there's new and different experiences. So like we talked with Jordan Daly today about, with enough golden tickets, could kids buy field trips to career sites? You know, I'm really interested in doing this. If I get enough golden tickets, can I get to go on a small personalized field trip with 3 or 4 other kids to a restaurant because I want to cook something? Or, you know, I'm into mechanics, so can I go see, you know, somewhere where they work on cars with some of my friends? And so we're trying to think about the, you know, the right way to sort of incentivize students and keep them focused on that. So, like I said, there's a lot of positive buzz among students and staff, so we're excited about that. So that's what we've been up to this month. That's been our primary focus. Lots of other stuff going on, of course, but that's really been the work of the staff since before the in-service days started in August and right up through September. So, any questions?
Questions for Todd? I just want to say that I really appreciate the focus on consistency. And question we have for you is, do you feel that your new staff, because you have a lot of younger staff, are they getting the support they need to?
I think so. I mean, that's a trick question. And so, like, does any new teacher ever get the support that they really need? Probably not. But I think they're getting a lot of support. I think they're getting more than they've been able to get in the past, between resources like the BCBA, resources like an assistant principal, so that now there's 2 people that they can talk to. You know, creates capacity amongst the administrative staff. You know, if there's the 5th grade team and the 7th grade team both have questions, you know, there's a divide and conquer ability there that wasn't there in the past. So I think that they're feeling more supported. And I think you know, teachers by nature are warriors and they're concrete. And so if you think about the last couple of years, there's been a lot to worry about, and there's been a lot of like ambiguity, like just not knowing, and that takes up a lot of headspace. And so I think with a lot of that gone, you know, you can focus on a smaller number of things, and by that nature, you feel more supported as well. So I think, you know, a better starting point and more resources, and a tight plan. Based on the comments I've had, I think they feel pretty well supported. I think that's due to RSU 25 feedback too, right?
That's what we're getting in that new class as well. I'm popping into different classes, and today I went up and hung out with the phys ed class.
Yeah.
And Ms. Cormier had a wonderful activity going. Kids were all engaged, 100% engaged in the phys ed class in middle school. Doesn't always happen, and it was 100%, and the kids were having a good time. She did a great job of communicating with them. When I had a chance, I asked her how things were going. Get this big smile on her face. And she goes, "This is exceeding my expectations." So,
Does she give out golden tickets? Because that could be why.
it's good.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jen here.
I just want to point out that I was in a meeting most of today, and some folks from other schools in the state seem a little tired and not so excited, and staffing issues were everywhere. And so I just want to point out that all the great things everyone talks about here, it's great stuff. And it's always a pleasure for Aspire to get to build off this energy that people have. The last couple of years, we've done all we could, but everyone was at maximum capacity, and we can already start to see some different impacts in the beginning of this year that we're hopeful we can make that we wouldn't have been able to do before. So that's an exciting start. So I'm just going to run down through. We do work, of course, with all 4 schools, so there's quite a bit going on, but I'll just touch on a few points that we started off the year with. We do get a chance to meet the new staff at the new to RSU class, which is a good start to make sure they're up to speed, get an overview of the Aspire initiative. And we wanted a way to have a paper document if people just wanted a quick reference, and to also promote the website link for the teachers to get where they ask for support. And we were able to have a refined process that to simplify what they need to provide, since there were some struggles from some folks last year. And so we were able to make a guide. I have some copies of it that I can have out, if people want to take a copy just to see what all is in it. And we've been encouraged whenever we give out information that we should also give out something along with it. So we have some treats that I'll also make sure you guys all get to go with that. Freshman orientation did that again this year, and the scavenger hunt went well again. With the scavenger hunt already existed, but the online version with Goose Chase, I think, was again a good start to the year for those new freshmen who were just trying to feel their way around the building, get to know their teachers. And we have seen things start to move in all the schools, but a lot happens quickly in the high school with the beginning of the school year, and particularly because we have our Melmac team that already meets. We've met twice already this year. So field trips are coming again to MMA, CMCC, Thomas, Colby, COA, UMA. So we're trying to get to a variety of schools that there weren't opportunities to visit last spring for seniors priority, small groups, but seniors who really haven't had a chance to get out and see what they might be interested in. And we're going to make sure we include plenty of community college visits, different sites around the state throughout the course of the year, since the students do have the opportunity to have the free 2 years. This is the final senior class that will apply to, so we're gonna make sure they know all their options. We're gonna do senior night again, like we did last year, so that's next week. You may have seen the signs in the hallway on the way up to help seniors and their parents get a preview of the year to come and all the deadlines and details that they need to know, make sure they're well informed. You might remember last year we did magnets, so we did those again. So hopefully if you go into the house of a senior, you're gonna see a magnet on the fridge. They know what's going on. College fair, so we haven't been able to do that. They have 60 schools that all go Team Maine from New England schools. So the high school is doing that this week. On Thursday, there was a sign up that Jordan is going to join the guidance team to help chaperone that. And a couple new for the elementary schools, some new character element videos. And soon there's going to be one featuring Mr. Foster. So keep an eye open out. I'll be sure to play that once we get that one.
Ooh, what's that character element?
Well, it's going to get filmed, I think, next week. And I won't tell you what character element it is. So it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So we're interested. We've talked to folks at Maine Maritime, trying to do some collaboration there. Jordan and I get the opportunity to go to the JMG Workforce Development Summit in the summer to check in on resources that we can access there. And we're trying to support the work that was mentioned tonight with the badging experience, along with the high school's work to expand internship opportunities for students. So this is for in and outside of JMG. It's all open to all students. So trying to help support as we can. There's just a lot to do that isn't always able to be done by school staff, so we can try to support that and build some systems while we're here to do that work. Email contests are coming back again. The first one's already happened in high school, and now it's expanding to the middle school. So some chances for middle schoolers to be rewarded for checking their email and responding, and having them do small tasks that will be career or post-secondary oriented, things that will be good skills for them, but just doing it in a fun, random, once a month, keep an eye on your email sort of challenge. And we're working on putting together a business community meeting in October. So hopefully details will be coming out next week as soon as we have a chance to nail them down. Yep, so part of Aspire, we have our steering committee, and then we are tasked with having at least semi-annual community meetings, and we've wanted to do that. We just needed to get to the place where we had things to present, and COVID allowed us to actually gather, so we're looking forward to that. And we went to Orland River Day, saw some folks that we know, and this year there were a few less families and more individual adults that we talked to. But it was actually nice to be able to talk to them about, what, do you have anything you could offer? Would you be willing to talk to a student about your skills or your career? And so we were able to gather some new contacts through that. And tomorrow we are getting our data back from our staff and 12th grade surveys that are going to help us set our goals for this year to come. So we'll be sure to share those out with you once we have those in place. And we do have the student component still in place for our steering committee, which was kind of a transition from students who were on the board, but the Aspire committee is an opportunity for students to be engaged and bring that student voice. And we had our senior graduated, so we have a new junior who is going to join us on the committee, so one junior, one senior, and looking forward to lots of good things this year. And I'll make sure you all get your treats. I promise. I don't want to distract you, so we'll leave them out at the end. Any questions?
Questions for Jen? Thank you. And then last, we've got Jim. Who's
Mr. Morrow?
Good evening. Keep it rather short. I think I say that every time, but for the most part, a lot of what your administrators have already said, we've been tied in with adult ed or REV projects, and we're happy to do that. It's good to be an integrated part of the campus and the district rather than just, someone on the side that takes care of stuff and no one even knows what it is. A couple things I'll point out is that I think we had our most successful student device turnout this year. I have 2 sitting down in the high school office that have not gone to students. We're trying to figure out why. Most of that's because those students may not have attended yet, or they may not be with us. We don't know that yet. So definitely each year gets a little bit better. A little bit of a change in our paperwork this year, made it a little bit even more better, I should say. But the biggest thing is we didn't switch devices halfway through, so that's very helpful. We had devices that the students were going to get to start off, and they were out the door. In addition to that, my staff has handled, at least at the initial phase, over 700 help desk tickets in the last 3 weeks. So everyone that has requested help has had some sort of reply or resolution to their request. That certainly goes up. As we mention all the time, we're 1-to-1 for devices, and the device count continues to grow. This DOE will be contributing per building another set of devices or licensures that they've told us about, rather than inquiring if it's useful to us. So it'll be a conversation we have with Mr. Boothby and Allison to find out which solution is better for us. But there's more stuff that will be there for us to manage. So other than the fact that we're busy, and we appreciate being busy, that's what I have for you. Any specific questions or concerns that you've heard? Like I said, we try to address everything coming through help desk. So great communication with HCTC this year, by the way. One of our challenges on our Chromebooks, we try to make sure the filters stay, our safety devices stay, at the same time not hamper what they're doing. And so they actually had an issue. This is their first year using a filter that we're familiar with. And so the healthcare industry, the healthcare classes were running into some hiccups on some of their search terms. And so I messaged them and said, hey, I caught those search terms. Our people should be all set. They're like, hey, thanks for doing that. How do we do it? So it is a network bigger than just our district, as well as we try to continue to grow in there. But Phil, any questions you might have? Good.
Before you run away.
Yes.
Mr. Morrow is an officer in the state organization, which I've encouraged him to take advantage of that. It's always important for us to take leadership roles, not only internally, but externally. And he is helping lead the charge around cybersecurity in the state of Maine. So he has been a bridge with the state of Maine, DOE, as well as back with me over to the Property and Casualty Trust at DOE. So we're actually working on, if you remember our crisis plan, we had a section on there on cybersecurity. We're one of the few in the state, I believe, that has addressed that as a crisis plan item. And we're working with State of Maine DOE. They have a support structure for that, about setting that up so we can have templates that people can use. So.
Those jokes about the government function or government duties. And it was nice to have someone from the DOE rep, Mr. Jim Chassie, come to our groups, both Acton, which is our doers, I say, and then Meta, that tends to be our leadership, and say, this is what we're doing. I'm looking for some input from the people on the front line. How do we do this? One of the big things is a lot of rules coming down with a lot like the financial requirements, because we have a lot of the same information. So security numbers, payrolls. I mean, someone gets into our data, they very well could ruin people's credits or histories in kindergarten right now. So we want to make sure we avoid that. So when he came to us, we also have a lady at Scarborough who's their tech director, and she comes from the financial district. So it was awesome. So two of us are pairing up, trying to make sure that we don't have these silos of people taking effect. We're looking at a framework that isn't just Maine, but is a standard for industry in general, whether you're talking finance, banking, education. So we can apply that here. And then at what level really should we have a state involvement that everyone has to do or everyone could benefit from? And then allow the local control to do what that solution may be, but at least offer that. It's been nice to see it come to fruition. It's some work. I'm learning a lot. And it gives me like reading 2 a.m. So. Thanks, good. Thank you.
We've got election of delegate for MSBA annual delegate assembly.
Don't all charge to the front. Each year, those folks who attend the MSBA conference, there is a significant portion, there's a delegate assembly. You have an elected individual from your school board. That would be your voice in the delegate assembly. What they will do is they will vote on their platforms, what they want to move forward as the upcoming legislative session comes about. It's a dynamic activity. You follow Robert's Rules of Order. Some people relish the opportunity to demonstrate how much they know about the Robert's Rules of Order, but it's an important function of the school. So if you like to have a delegate, you're encouraged to have one, but it needs to be elected by the school. The name will be submitted.
I'd like to do it. I like stuff like that.
We have a nominee.
Well, I nominate Heather Rickman as our delegate. Second.
Nomination and second. All those in favor of Heather? Yes, unanimous.
Okay.
You're done and done.
I like stuff like this.
Well, we'll talk it out.
Yeah. We'll talk it out.
So everybody's done this.
Well,
Enjoyed it,
everybody's
basically.
done it and said, a positive experience. So it's good.
Um,
All
There we go. Right on
right,
time.
perfect timing. Oh, hello, sir.
You found me in the parking lot. Where do I, oh, okay.
So
this is Mr. Harlan, and he's going to discuss collaboration with Bucksport Regional Health.
Very good, thank you. So we have a, Jim, you can help me with this, I hope.
Okay.
We have a several-year partnership between the Bucksport Regional Health Center, your next door neighbor across the parking lot, and provision of counseling services in the schools. So you had a previous arrangement with another agency that was in there. We partnered up, and for several years, we've been able to send independently licensed LCSWs into the schools to provide counseling services. Those services are provided on referral from parents, on referral from faculty and staff, on referral from maybe the doctor's office. Those students receiving services are patients, or made patients if they're not already patients of the health center. So all the consent, all the billing, all the responsibility for services belongs to Bucksport Regional Health Center. We're basically using your venue to provide services to your students and the like. So we're a couple years doing that. We've all been challenged by COVID, for sure. But the health center has continued to work, and we've continued to try to reach students. Last year, I shared with Jim and the administrative, as his team, I'll say, the administrators, that last year we served about 150 different students. We have an assessment document, and I think a year ago you saw the results of that, those of you that were here. It's called the SABRS, which has to do with social and academic and emotional kind of rating whether the kids are getting better. And we like to think we helped, but that we're not the only factor in their lives, but whether kids are getting better over that period of time. What we found last year, again, was something that bothered me a little bit. And I'm an LCSW. I've been providing counseling services and substance abuse treatment services primarily for 45 years here in the state of Maine. We have a thing in substance abuse called the rule of thirds. And that is if I try to help Dan, we'll pick on Dan here, I always talk to people. If I'm trying to help Dan with something, there's about a third chance that I'm going to be helpful. A third, it's going to kind of stay the same. And a third is no matter what I do, it's just going to keep going the wrong direction. So what happened when we were looking at the data at the schools again last year is that bottom third, that's what keeps me up at night. Those kids that are still not getting here, still not, the ones that we can't seem to be able to reach. So we had two things happen. One is we had some staff leave at the health center, so I'm short-staffed. So I have less man hours to apply to the task of trying to help your students, or woman hours. So they're typically more woman hours than man hours, not I think about it. But anyhow, less hours to apply to the task. So we said, why don't we look more at trying to be briefer, more solution focused, and try to maybe save some time to reach that bottom third. So we have a lot of kids that benefited from good supportive maintenance counseling and that kind of thing, but we need a lot of interventions. So what we have done this year, and we started today with Todd. Is Todd here? There's Todd. Yeah, started with Todd today up at the middle school, is we started looking at, okay, here's how much resource we have to apply. Which kids are the highest, most urgent need do we have right now? So we started with the IEP kids, meaning the kids that there's already been an interdisciplinary team of educators and parents, and they've agreed this kid needs this kind of counseling. And it's spelled out, and you're obligated under the law to make it happen. Okay, so that's the first priority for us in our marriage with you guys. That's the basic, the first thing we got to make sure we deliver. Okay, then we looked at who are the kids that are most acute, who are the ones that need the most intervention. So that's a different model than's been implemented, where we took the kids that were ready and willing, and we spent a lot of time with them. And that was helpful time, hopefully, but it was still missing some people. So we're trying to manage ourselves. And what I want to propose is that, we're a finite resource to you guys. I supervise the behavioral health department over there. I have 9 independently licensed professional people. And we have almost 100-person waiting list over there too. So we're busy in the day of COVID. We're busy. I hope it's because we're good at what we do too. I hope we're busy because people are wanting the kind of services we have. But in each building, we want to meet with the guidance people and the administrator, the principal, and say, let's look at managing this resource, and let's get the kids that have the most acute needs seen. And let's see if we can segment it a little bit. Like maybe like we're starting with at the middle school, we know who some of those kids are that have high needs. We know we're not gonna fix them in 3, but we're gonna say, you know what, let's see them 3 times and then see what kind of demand they might be, what kind of resource they might need. So that's our model. I wanted to defend it. I wanted you to know about it. I've also presented the same to the Bucksport Regional Health Center Board, who are my overseers. So Jim, what would you add to that? And then the principal here, the good Dr. Trepp, tells me that I'm last on the agenda, so I'm here all night for questions. But I'll bet you're not. I spent 9 years on the school board myself up in Garrett. So yes,
One of the reasons why I wanted Dave to come and meet with you, and he is right, this is partnership that's been going on for a few years now. We recognize we have a number of students that have social emotional needs that were not being met. And if they were being met, a lot of that was being pulled out of academic time. Kids would have to leave and go to appointments, Bucksport, Bangor, Belfast, Ellsworth, everywhere. So we started having this conversation. What structure can we put in place that would support the kiddos, but not impact the educational environment as much, taking those kids out? So this partnership, we started with another entity that was okay, but we had another opportunity with our neighbors. And after sitting down with Carol Carew, who's the director, and talked with Dave, we think we hit upon a good partnership, and it's been very effective. But because of COVID, it's had to change. And we have to adjust to different situations. Dave's enterprise, like everybody else in the world, is struggling with getting employees. And this is a time individual. I've got X amount of time with X amount of patients. And so that ratio has caused us to take a look at this and now, okay, what's the next iteration? One of the beauties of this program is this is a service for families. It's not forced upon them. It's totally voluntary. We might suggest it as look at this, but they can choose yay or nay. It doesn't matter. But we're dealing with kiddos right there at school. So it's in, out, very little break. And if you picked up on it, and I'm always, you know me, I'm always pretty sensitive to the dollar. This is really not at a cost to the district. We do contract with them for our IEP students because we're required to by law. But for the students that are IEP students, they're paid for through the family's insurance or so on and so forth.
Where the health center does have a sliding fee scale because it's federally funded too. So we're able to offer some breaks as well.
So it's a unique partnership. You're seeing more of this around, I know the state of Maine, we were relatively on the front end of this. And when we first started, people saying, oh, you don't want to do this. And I couldn't figure out why we didn't want to do this. And I still can't figure out why we don't want to do this. So
well, that's good. We must be doing something right then if you can't figure it out.
No, I'll tell you, this has been a great partnership and we can talk about it. But you folks really have been on the surface talking about it. We've never had an opportunity to discuss it like this. So I'll shut up and you can ask questions together.
Heather, yes, Heather.
Okay, so you said that before you were taking kids that were ready, willing, and able to come in.
Right.
And you were still getting the third, right? You're still getting
Right,
the third
right,
result.
right.
And so you said, okay, I want to change this up and I want to now go ahead and focus on the IEP students and see if we can't get those acute students
Right.
coming through our doors faster. And so what happens to the students that were ready and willing and able?
We're going to see as many of them and as much of them as we can.
I see.
We're just not prioritizing them.
So you're going to go.
Because they were
to
consuming the bulk of the service
I see.
while there was little to no intervention in
I
some of
see.
the other kids.
So
So I don't want to leave them out at all.
Are
Yeah.
we redirecting them to somewhere else? So the ready and willing and able kids, are we redirecting them to
Uh-huh.
other services
Okay.
elsewhere?
The bad news is there aren't other services elsewhere.
Right,
So,
Right.
so we're really not sending them any, we're trying to free up our own resources or create the kind of supports that they need. And that goes back to our partnership together.
right, but there's other facilities out there that could help them, right? That if you don't have the availability to help a ready and willing and able student who is ready to look at counseling,
Yeah.
you're not redirecting them somewhere else?
We just started, so we haven't had that need as yet. But I think there are limited resources elsewhere, Frank. I got a call today from somebody who was looking for some family therapy. And they said they called everywhere around and it was
Yes.
6 months wait.
Yes.
And I said, I'll see you Saturday.
Yeah.
So, because it doesn't merit waiting, and that's what I think we try to do, but yeah, if you have ideas of resources, I would appreciate it.
I mean, even
Yeah.
if it's something as small as just a pamphlet of like just numbers.
Right.
Of other, all you need is a paper to say, oh, we can't help you right now, but,
Right.
certainly call these numbers.
Yes, we'll definitely do that. That's a good suggestion.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
all done.
Any other questions?
Who else has
David.
something? Yes,
Does this have to be 100% parental consent before they apply your services?
yes.
Have you ever seen a need for a student, but there's been pushback from parents saying we don't want your service? Have you ever had that?
Let's the administrators answer I only get it after they do the hard work and then I get there after they've got it done. So.
Referral doesn't end up getting to them because the parent doesn't sign off on it.
Right.
So despite our question,
Very common.
I think it's probably less, it happens less frequently at the high school than it probably does at the younger ages. And I think sometimes there's some fear of pushback or,
Right.
that if there's like the family's not doing their job.
Right.
If they have to.
Right.
Like you guys can speak to that probably.
There's also a small number of folks who just can't afford, like even with
Right. Support.
discount.
Absolutely.
They're, they've got the
Because there is a little
bones
bit of a
insurance
thing.
that just, cover like 2
You're right.
sessions and that's it.
Well, it depends on the third-party insurers. So in some cases, the bulk are main care. There is no cost. And main care is going to cover what we do because we're all licensed and certified and all that stuff. But yeah, so with insurance company, even if you have good insurance, there's a 20% copay, 20% of $100 is $20. But I do pretty good. I didn't go to Bucksport though. I went to Shenango in Pennsylvania, but yeah, that was the name of my high school. But yeah, so I think, I think it's there, but I have, and I know you know this, I've been on the phone and explained to parents the service, explained the need, tried to talk them past the barrier. And I think that family stuff, Todd and I today, we're talking about, I'm going out to a home again, to a student who's not getting here. And I'm going to meet with the family again, and job one is to get him in the chamber. So that's all stuff that I hope we can be successful at. Yeah. But you're right, it's you gotta keep the parents on board. They're the guardians, the other guardians of some of these kids, to say the more negative maybe, is Department of Human Services. So we get a lot of referrals from that. We get foster kid referrals and all that.
So can they step in if a parent doesn't want? any
They
kind of-
certainly do,
And they
but
do.
that's usually, yeah, they certainly do if they're involved in a considerable number.
Does that happen very often? Or?
DHS?
Yeah.
I don't know about what percentage.
Well,
Yes,
I mean,
I see it all the
yes,
time.
I mean-
I see it happens all the time. I'm not sure.
And that can happen without any work with the schools.
Right.
And that's something.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I just want-
You're looking in the wrong direction because they're answering right behind you.
Mm.
Alyssa, kind of.
Okay.
Heather again,
I
yes.
know.
Yes.
Is there any way that we could possibly reinforce the positive side of just seeking mental health for these kids. I mean, during the course of COVID, we all realized that, you know, everybody was talking, oh, my kids, they're not mentally dealing well.
Right.
The families aren't dealing well. Everybody's not dealing well. Okay, so mental health is now on the driving force of moving past the COVID restrictions and the COVID trauma. So is there any way that we could possibly start a program where we begin to introduce mental health as any other regular health service that somebody would need? If you need a tooth pulled, you need a tooth pulled. If you need mental health, you need mental health. And reducing the stigma of that, it should be another part of this program. Because if we're having parents who are saying, well, I can't afford it, or I don't want anybody to know, or my kids don't want other kids knowing, you know, maybe try to take some destigmatize it so that we can actually bring it so that it's more.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm, I guess, known as sometimes delusionally positive, but I think it's already happening.
Right.
I think your health curriculum is doing a nice job with that. I think the people in this room, I look around the room, I don't see anybody who doesn't have a driver's license probably. So nobody under 18. The under 18 crowd is much less likely to stigmatize it. Kids are happy to have someone to talk to typically. And so I think we're raising a generation with less stigma. We got to kind of get over our own a little bit. Yeah.
So now that we're talking about, you know, giving the kids, could we give the kids more access to more information and more, you know, not really, well, I mean, you kind of, you know, because like Todd says, you can tell them 10 times that they can call a number for help.
Right.
And it, you know, it may be that 10th time that they need to call that number to get the help that they need. You know, maybe we can, you know, start really, you know, just putting out more information just to the kids, you know, hey, they don't need a parent to call crisis. You can call crisis anytime at any age.
And I believe the health teacher does do a fair amount of that in the junior high. I feel like my kids have told me stuff like that.
Right, but I mean, if we're talking about, you know, like maybe we have kids that are not getting the referral through that we can, you know, maybe still, you know, redirect into, you know, you're having troubles, you know, getting help from the people closest to you. Maybe you can take care of yourself and we'll give you this information and you can do this for yourself.
Providing backup resources that won't require that oversight.
That information is available through our guidance, through our health, through our nurses, but it's there, okay? But at the same time, we always work in partnership with our families.
Yeah.
Okay? And we're not going to cut our parents out.
Exactly.
Right, you're never gonna do that, but kids do have access, and as they get older, they're more able to access that stuff. But we do have all of those things available through our guidance offices, through our student health programs, and through the administrative offices. It's there. It doesn't have to be created.
I know.
It's there.
I'd like to check my assessment. Darcy, do you think the young ones are feeling stigma or are they looking beyond that? Do you think it's getting better that way? I mean, I do.
I definitely think it's.
You think so? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. And again, I think it's curriculum right from the beginning. I know, yes.
No, I was just saying that I think that it's definitely something that people are more willing to ask about now than ever before.
Right.
You know, because it's been a part of these conversations. It's been at the forefront. It's been on the tip of all our tongues.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree. Other questions?
I thought it was important that Dave talked to you about the programming that's going on. It's part of, you know, again, we're responding to an issue that's been here before COVID. It was exacerbated because of COVID. A lot of things that were not necessarily recognized, that COVID took the cap off that. But the important takeaway is, yes, the programming is happening. We're working with families, but the resources are limited. Okay, and that's a reality. And we can wish and we can hope, but we still have to do. And so what we've done is we've adjusted the programming so we can maximize who we're reaching, hopefully maximize the benefit of it.
Right.
I know the health center is actively advertising for at least 3 LCSWs at this point in time.
Right.
And as they add to the staff, that's going to be able to add more
Right.
to what we're able to offer.
Right.
It's a great partnership. We're very fortunate. You have a lot of schools that develop their own school health clinics. We don't need one. We have one right within 50 yards of a parking lot that's available. It's federally funded, so access for all. Right. So it's important that, you know, again, folks are concerned with what are we doing to support for academics, well, we're doing those things, but also the mental and social health and well-being of our kiddos is really, really important.
And the takeaway that I'm getting from this is just that the update from what we have been is now we're working with the school in partnership with the health.
Right.
center.
I want
to actively target identified needs.
Right, and what are the highest needs?
Yeah, and I'm the manager of the behavioral health department at Bucksboro Regional Health Center. But I want Darcy and Todd to manage the service. Send us to the kids that need it the most. Yeah.
We're very fortunate. It's been a very positive, healthy partnership that hasn't been stale. We've taken a look at things, what's going well, what can we do better?
Right.
Great.
That sounds like an intelligent development to work together. to do best to that.
And one more thing, Jim. I gotta say, everybody take a deep breath now. You know this already. You guys got some great kids. And you got some great staff. And I see it all the time and I appreciate it all the time. So I hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
That brings us to calendar.
Calendar. Now, on the calendar, we do want to point out that part of the conversations we've had with curriculum and the Aspire committee is part of our transition to, you know, going beyond, making this live beyond the grant. So we're going to connect the Aspire committee and the curriculum committee. Okay, and Abby, I'm not even to screw that, but we're going to do.
This is perfect.
This is perfect.
Because even if they do lengthen my day, it will only go till 5, and I bet I can request to get out early once a month.
Okay. And do you mind doing Aspire first and curriculum second?
Oh, not at all.
Okay, so we're gonna flip Aspire to 5:30 on October 13th and curriculum to 6:30. And those two will bleed in together and they'll become one eventually. Okay. Policy committee, October 11th at 5:30, finance committee and school board, October 18th. And anybody who's interested in going to the school board conference, I need to know ASAP. Heather, you've obviously committed, David, Dan, Peter. Great job.
Oh, I might. I know, that's where he is right now. Broke my heart.
All right, so we'll get those registered, we'll get some hotel rooms, we usually get them in the same hotels.
I will email you because mine's contingent on getting the day off from work, the days off from work.
I'll let you know.
Right.
Is that possible? Please
I-
excuse that.
I'll give you a
I-
doctor's note.
Well, I work at VA. I'm a
Yes.
nurse, so I think it'll be fine as long as I can get coverage.
Okay, all right, so that, we've got the calendar.
Facilities 13.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, that brings us to our favorite time of day.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you. That's a unanimous vote.
And I stayed for anybody who wants to individualize a question.
Oh, yeah.
I'm right here.